Hamilton is waiting for Carl in the general store. It was time for him to get down to business.
Greetings to all you beautiful people searching for your woolly socks, freezing your toes off. This is Kallestofeles, and today I wish to bring you some of my thoughts regarding an indie adventure title called KONA. What is it, and should you even care? Well, let's find out. Subjectively, on PC platform as always.
The door was unlocked. Carl felt kinda disappointed that he wouldn't have to solve the mystery of that padlock.
So the story of KONA goes something like this. Northern Canada, 1970. A strange blizzard ravages Atomipeck Lake. Step into the shoes of a detective to explore an eerie village, investigate surreal events and battle the elements to survive. KONA is a chilly, narrative-driven interactive tale you won't soon forget. Okay, so the story of KONA summed up, and without spoilers, is that you assume the role of a private investigator Carl, who's on his way to meet up with a contact to get his job. Alas, on the way to meet up with his contact, Carl crashes his car, and once he does show up for the meeting, his contact is found dead. From here on out, it's up to you to investigate what happened to him, and as you will find out soon enough, you will be finding yourself investigating also what has happened to the whole town, as it is suspiciously quiet. Right, so KONA is quite literally an interactive tale, and it shows out a lot. You go about investigating what happened to the town and its inhabitants, while solving puzzles along the way, and those are not your ordinary inventory management puzzles, nor like the ones in Talos Principle for an example. They are more like learning the past through exploration and reading to find out what exactly happened to the people who had lived in this village. Think of it as kinda like Vanishing of Ethan Carter, as that game bears a huge resemblance to KONA in my mind, and functions pretty similarly, though with different mechanics in place. In my opinion, they are a bit more or less of a glorified walking simulators. And don't get me wrong, that is not a bad thing. It just all depends on how well the story is laid out, and if one is particularly interested in following that specific storyline. When it comes to both Vanishing of Ethan Carter and KONA, both do an excellent job in storytelling in my book. You do get a few guns during your gameplay, but just don't get your hopes up using them against other human beings. The most you'll be shooting at in this game are hounds. Possibly something else as well, but in order to avoid any spoilers, let's not go there at this point. The map of the whole playable area is not very large. And maybe you can get an imagination of it if I were to say that completing the whole game took me like 5 hours according to Steam, whilst possibly 1 hour of it belonging to adventuring on the map itself. Whilst not very large in size, the map is however full of loading areas. And those loading areas can get quite annoying from time to time, especially when you're roaming through the local woods with the snowmobile. Luckily, it's not that bad that you wish to stop playing the game. And as a tiny side note here, it really sucks that looking at the map is not possible whilst you're riding the snowmobile. Though it is understandable why you cannot check the map whilst riding, it should be at least viewable on it when stationary and should not be requiring you to step off the vehicle, because it just wastes time and that is not fun. And as we are already on the topic of maps, there are also some treasure maps in the game. But what really sucks about them is that you will need to view them from time to time. And in order to do so, you must open your inventory and look for them separately, amongst other documents and items. I mean, why couldn't they just include the treasure maps along with the regular map, like changeable via hotkey or similar? This mechanic, well, it just wastes time. And when in combination with not being able to view anything on the snowmobile, it unfortunately just adds to the annoyance factor as well. Now, visually speaking, KONA also looks very, and I do mean very good. Just as Vanishing of Ethan Carter stunned me with its visuals back in 2014, KONA almost manages to do the same this year with excellent graphical atmosphere. Now, it is not perfect, but it's definitely good enough not to be ashamed of anything. Performance-wise, running everything absolutely maxed out on my GTX 1070, KONA performed mainly around about somewhat over 60 FPS, even on the more demanding scenes. If I were to talk about the presentation of the title, then all I have to say are just words of praise here. To begin with the theme song, which plays during the main menu. It is brilliant, perfectly fits the mood and just sets the right tone for the upcoming tale. Furthermore, right as you start the game, the same tune plays in the radio as you drive along the forest path. It's details like this that really show good craftsmanship in presentation.
Hamilton had recently acquired a few local businesses, but the last straw was the reopening of a mine, which gave rise to a wave of protests and threats from the Cree people.
Also worth mentioning is that there really aren't many different music tracks to the game, but what is there fits the bill perfectly and does not get too repetitious, because you will not be listening to the music the whole journey, and if you are, then you're doing it wrong, because besides excellent musical choices, sound and music are also done very well here. There are no real huge elephants in the room when it comes to audio mixing, and the voice work of the narrator is just brilliant. You know, when you're trying to tell a story and your whole game is essentially just one big fat long story, then nailing it with a narrator is a must. And in this case, thank God, Parable have done exactly that. Now, earlier I said that you would go against hounds with some guns, which, as you will notice, is not exactly as hard to pull off as rocket science. But for some reason, the world is full, and I mean full, of medkits and painkillers for you to use. I would not count this against the game by any chance, as the combat takes a very backseat in this title, and the location of the medkits and painkillers is logical and explainable. It is just weird from the gameplay standpoint to end the game with 10 painkillers and 6 medkits, when given that you have probably just used 3 to 4 painkillers the whole game, because at one point the game just demanded you to do so, and at other point get some inventory space real quickly. Again, this is subjective note, as all the medkits and painkillers found in the game are pretty much logically explainable why they are there, so it's not an issue. There's only so much which you can discuss about such titles which focus heavily on the storytelling. But what do I think, and should anyone be looking into this any further? Well, KONA drives home an excellent story with enjoyable and relaxed mystery gameplay fused with walking simulator essence. If this is something up your alley, then usually I would say go for it. However, unfortunately this time I cannot, and let me explain. The game costs €19.99 at the time of this recording, and based on my experience, offers around 5 hours of gameplay time if you go through the game enjoyably and not getting every little stuff there is to do. You could probably speedrun this within an hour. There is just no way that I could recommend buying this little content for that amount of money at this point. With these story-focused games, the sad part also is that once you play through it, usually you don't wish to go back for the second time. But that would mean repeating a whole lot of content which is story-driven and not very interesting anymore, if there are no different paths for you to take. It could be different if there were more interactions or different story paths to take, but KONA is more or less of just one straight line story done right. With this in mind, I would say that if you are into this kind of gameplay and you would like to experience KONA on your own, then wait for a sale to happen. Not that the game is bad, no, trust me, it's brilliant. But it's also short, very short. I hope that I was able to provide you with some insight to what exactly KONA is and what you can expect from it. If you liked this video, feel free to leave a like. If you disliked it, then dislike button is there as well. This has been Kallestofeles, and if you for whatever reason wish to be notified when I upload more junk like this onto the interwebs, then feel free to click that subscribe button. And in case you feel you want to hear more from me right now, then I also have a few videos already on my channel awaiting for you. I thank you very much for watching, and I wish you a blizzard-free day under a sunny sky. Bye bye.
Beautiful portrait of Gilles and Giselle, bound together by the chains of conventional love.